I'm Josh Evans, and I love to help businesses build the right culture within their organizations so they can be more profitable. Do you want more engaged employees? Do you want your company to be more productive? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to share with you the tools that I've used with hundreds of companies varying in size from 60,000 person conglomerates down to 5-person teams. So get ready and join me so we can build the right culture for your business. Hi, welcome back to my show. I'm Josh Evans, and this is the Corporate Culture Show. And I have a very, very special guest for you today. And I'm just so excited that they could join me. Now, I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but I will say that it's somebody who's the CEO of a resort, or many resorts here in North America and in the Caribbean. And I had the privilege of staying at one of these resorts several years ago with my wife, and it was experiential. It was an amazing thing, because when you go somewhere, especially if it's some sort of hospitality organization, you can always know that the staff's going to want to serve you, but you don't always know if they're going to enjoy it. And what I can say is that every person that I interacted with on this property, you could tell not only loved their job, they loved the fact that they were helping me have an amazing experience. So I'd like you to know that I'm welcoming Xavier Mufraggi. I can't say it. You're going to have to pronounce it for me. Mufraggi. I'm so sorry. I practiced it right before we got on. Anyway, no worries. The CEO of Club Med North America and the Caribbean. So saying thank you so much for coming on my show. I'm just so excited to have you.
Thank you, Josh. And, I really like the topic of what you're bringing out. And for sure, for us, enthusiasm and the way you describe our stuff is that, that's the best I could hear, because it's so much what we try to do every day.
It was amazing. And I couldn't believe the amount of distance that all of your employees come from. I met people from Australia. I met people from France. I met people from South America, all at your resorts. And they apparently had been at lots of other resorts as well. So it seems like y'all trade a lot of staff all over the place.
Yeah. It's it's a number one tip. It's a very expensive tip, actually. A lot of people challenge us about it, but it's we really realized that experience was so much for our guests for many years, and it's even more right now. So we need to keep the passion of our teams, and the way we manage to do it is in two ways. First, every year they change jobs. So you starting at leisure, you go for hospitality, you start at tennis, you can go sailing, and you get a promotion most of the time. The second aspect is that at least every year they change countries, which means that, you're a 22-year-old, you can start in Turks and Caicos, where you may have been. That means that the next mission could be either in Europe, in a ski resort, or in Phuket, or in Cannes, or in Africa. Which means that after 3 years, you might be now managing a team of 2 or 3, so promoting. And at the same time, you're going to be able to speak 3 to 4 languages. And we realize that is so important for guests, because then they feel the passion about all these nationalities and people have been around the planet.
Well, see, and that's just fantastic. I think there's something that's missing from a lot of other hospitality organizations. And what I'll call it, for lack of a better term, is consistency. Because I've been to some, and I won't say any other names, but I've been to some hotels or resorts, and it'll be a great experience. And I'll go to a similar resort in another part of the world that's by that same organization, and it'll be a totally different experience. And so what I love about what I understand that Club Med does is the consistency and how everybody cares about the guest's experience. And I think it's because you focus on the staff's experience as well. And that's just phenomenal. It really is. So I mean... Yeah. I know that the industry. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it's something we discussed to prepare. Our call I think is really part of our history. I think that this company is starting as an NGO, as a charity, and maybe you want me to explain a little bit about it.
Oh, please explain.
But that's what brought the whole emotion about it. Yeah. So this story is of Club Med. The short version was we were created by 2 persons at the end of the war. And the first one was an Olympic player and he wanted to do something for the families who were getting out of the concentration camp. So he went to see the second person who used to work for the Trigano family, which are, expert in camping. And he said, I want to do things for this family because they lost all that kind of humanity. And at that time, becoming the co-founder, said, you know what, I'm touched by your story and I want to do it with you. And it happens to have in their warehouse the remaining tents of the U.S. Army. The U.S. Army left tents after World War II. So our first result actually was taking this families outside of the concentration camp. And you have these two guys who brought them in Mallorca, which at that time was an island with nothing on it. And by the way, they bring their friends, and their friends were Olympians from the Olympic Games. So our staff at that time, our staff today are very active. They love to do sports. They're from 15 nationalities. In every resort you're going to go, you find 15 nationalities. They speak most of the time 3 to 4 languages. And, you know, at that time, they wanted to bring humanity to people who've lost everything. I think today is a little bit not as huge, but they strongly believe that coming to Club Med, the world is so tough today that we can have an oasis. That's when you ask ourselves where we are, we say we're an oasis. Why do we exist? Because we're an oasis. The world is so tough that we love to say we're an antidote to civilization. So
I like that.
Our goal, what we like to do, and our staff, that's their goal. When you say what's their job? Their job is to get people to disconnect when they arrive in our properties, and then to reconnect. Reconnect with themselves. You know, I do sport, I recharge, then I recharge with my spouse, and then I recharge with my kids. And it's crazy to think that this idea was in the 50s and the 70s, and they are so modern today with everything we hear. And that idea of oasis and recharging and reconnecting, I think, is pretty strong.
I love that. I love that. And I mean, it all starts with the staff, because the staff's what truly makes your experience. The property is great, but the staff is what did it for me when I was actually on your, and I've only been to one of their properties. I've only been to the property on Turks and Caicos, and I highly recommend it because Grace Bay is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the world. But so I understand y'all are in some huge expansion efforts, right? Y'all are going to do 15 new resorts in North America in the next 3 years.
So it's so we're a worldwide company. So it's today we have 70 property. And maybe people don't know about it. A third of our property are ski properties. So we're in the Alps, we're in Japan, we're in China in ski. And we're going to open also property in North America, in Canada and the US.
All right.
So
I see. I'm a big skier. That's exciting for me.
So you're going to come to us. Yeah. And it's the same amazing concept. We're always the prime location because we love to go in places where there's nothing. Like Turks and Caicos, we're the first hotel. They built the airport for us. We're in Punta Cana, where we built the airport. So next time you go in Punta Cana airport, know that it was a Club Med airport in 1982. And it's the same for the Bahamas. So most of the time, we're happy to go in a location where there's nothing. And then we create this full, I would say, ecosystem in between the infrastructure, the resort, the supplies, local supplies. So we kind of create a new sustainable development around this area. So we already have 70 properties around the planet. And we're going to open 15 properties. And on these 15 might be like 5 ski resorts. And also we have lots of location in China and also in the Caribbean.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So right now, the industry average for hospitality is about, what is it, like 64% turnover at the average property. And that's just in regular staff. And then I think it's 34% in management staff. Now, I know Club Med's done a phenomenal job of retaining more of their staff. What are y'all's numbers, give or take? I don't want to try to dive in how to fix everybody else.
No, you know, I think we're a bit better than what you were mentioning, especially worldwide. I think there is for us, we are another metrics, is that the turnover after 1 week. Because, the way we work with our staff is that either they like being with people or they're not. So we really see a very important metric is that do people after 1 week or 2 weeks realize that they don't do a job, but it's kind of a lifestyle? Because when they start to say, it's so many hours and I don't want to spend time with the clients, if it's not natural, it's not going to work. So we take every person, no matter their diversity, the sex orientation, whatever the diploma, we have a position for everybody. But the number one thing we look at, there's 2 things. Are they positive people? And do they like to learn? If they have these 2 and they like to be surrounded with people, then, they can be a general manager at 29 years old. Even this year we did for at least 28 years old.
Oh, wow. You have a GM that's 28.
Yeah, 28. And the average age, I think, is 31. And all of them, they started as the first rank position you may think of, either in the mini club, kids club, either in sports, either at the reception, either at the restaurant. And so that's the beauty of that story we have with Club Med, is that if I look at all my general manager in my region, I have 3 of them coming from North Africa. Most of them were all from a very poor family. One of them starting doing cleaning. Okay, I've one from Brazil, I've one from the US, from Florida, and one from Taiwan, one from mainland China. So that's the aspirational way of a career in Club Med, is that no matter where you come from, no matter any diversity you may think of, if you're positive, if you like to learn and learn fast, and if you like people, if you like to be with people,
absolutely,
and then you can do anything you want.
Well, that's
even
fantastic.
If you're starting at a kids club and then you'd like to do trapeze, you go in sport. If you like sport and then you say, I want to be more in the hospitality business, we'll train people to go from one job to another. And each time they would do it in a different country. So, if you don't like to be surrounded with people, that's difficult. If you really like it, some of them say, wow, I don't understand. I'm not doing a job. And we give opportunity for people for something big, especially when they start from nothing. I think that's where we get our loyalty.
Well, that's wonderful.
Getting people exciting about something new and gives them the ability to have promotion that they will never have anywhere else.
No, and I think that's just so essential. And I think too many organizations, even outside of hospitality that I've worked with, people, they get put in a role and they're expected to be in that role for 5, 6, even 7 years. And it's so easy for somebody to get complacent and to just kind of start going through the motions because there's nothing new there to inspire and to reinvigorate them. I think that's a phenomenal thing. So you've been with Club Med for over 10 years now. Where did you start?
So half of our executive committee comes from the resort, and half of us are coming from other industry. So I'm not like the crazy story where I started in the resorts.
You came from what, Kraft Foods?
From Kraft Foods, so
okay.
different things.
Yeah, I totally stalked you before this interview. I hope you don't.
Yeah, I see that. But it's crazy. So at our board meeting, we have 3 of them, one Italian, one Brazilian, one French. One started being a water ski instructor. The other one was a tennis player. And I think the third one, I can't remember. None of them had a diploma. Okay. Maybe high school diploma. But they were able to become a general manager. I think one is the youngest one ever. I think it was 26. The other 2 were in their 30s. And then they were operational managers and country manager and at the board meeting. And half of us are coming from the, big industry, but we wanted to move to companies with, I think with an alignment with our own personal purpose. So that's what I like. But, I'm kind of the same story. I'm joined Club Med 12 years ago. I was marketing director. A year and a half later, I was a VP of marketing in North America, and I became the CEO 1 year and a half later, and I was 31.
Wow! So I'm too old. I'm too old to join the ranks there.
I'm not sure many companies can give you that, but that I think what I like with it is that first that brings you a strong loyalty with the company. I have a complete alignment in between my own personal purpose of developing people, making them better than they are. I can do that on my job, and everything is changing every day. So I think that's no matter corporate side or in the resort side, and of course we get people to mix to one another. That's the beauty of this company.
That's so neat. I mean, and I totally agree with you. I think that it's essential. If you want people to truly succeed and to really live up to their potential in any sort of a role, you need to make sure that not only your company has its goals very specifically set, right? But you align those goals with the aspirations of the employee. And once you do that, I mean, you turn into companies like Club Med, and it's phenomenal. So, okay, if you had a piece of advice for, say, some 18 or 19-year-old out there, what is the most important thing going into the world, whether it's in hospitality or any other industry? What is a piece of advice you'd want them to have to help them be more successful and more fulfilled in what they do?
That's a good question. I'll have many. The first one is fail. Learn to fail. Come on, guys. Learn to fail. I've surrounded by people who have been at straight A's all that time. And at a moment, you're going to fail. And the later you wait, the tougher it is.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
Yeah, and so I'm telling you this because we put it as a priority for all our teams. Is that we kind of protecting them because we push them, to get new jobs and so on. So we kind of working so much on protecting them, and actually we realize that it's not helping them. It's helping us. I always say that people do not give a negative feedback to people, it's not because they're they think it's not good for good people, is that they have difficulties to do it. So we're so enthusiastic and positive that we have difficulties to do that, so that's interesting matter. But if you fail very early, then you understand that you're just progressing. And that's changed everything, because in the world we are today, if you don't learn and if you don't fail, then you're losing your edge.
Absolutely.
I'm saying to my team, guys, every day you're like the iPhone. Every year, either you move to the iPhone 9, 10, 11, 12, or the new guys coming from college will be doing better, because everything is changing. So putting everybody in a growth mindset attitude and being very optimistic and positive about that change, I think is changing everything. And the second part is the second part you just mentioned before, which I coach a lot of my potential general manager, and I tell them, you need to write down your personal purpose. Why you want, and you can change. And it's a very simple exercise. I use it even with top CEOs recently in a retreat. And you take a piece of paper and you write, my personal purpose is, and you write down an answer over and over and over again. It might take 30 times, 40 times. It took me like 60 times. And there's a moment where you start to feel goosebumps. When you start feeling an emotion, now you're getting there. And when you have that, then everything's aligned. Everything aligns. It's like neuroscience. The moment I managed to get my personal purpose and I look at what my job was, I say, how can I align them together? The moment I align them together, then I'm not working anymore. I'm projecting myself in my future. That means that every day when I come up, I say, do I go to that goal? And I think that the sooner people start thinking about it, the better. Because otherwise, for many kids, they're 19, 20, they tell them, oh, you should do that because I know it's going to be hard for 2 years, but thanks to that, you're going to get that job, which is pretty amazing. And each time they kind of push the goal, And I think that every day we should perceive that I'm not doing that, so I'm going to be happy in 2 years. You need to find some true happiness, enthusiasm every day on what you're doing. If you don't do that, change.
I totally agree. If you're not passionate, go find something to be passionate about.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
What they always say, what makes your heart thing? My English starting to be difficult with all these words, but I think you get it.
Absolutely.
You need to get that emotion, that power every day.
Well, and I love that exercise, and I've done it with some of the executive retreats that I've hosted, because I host some executive retreats, and we have that. And them working on their personal purpose allows them to be better in their role, because now it's something greater than themselves. It's greater than the role itself. And so what I've noticed is too often organizations, obviously outside of Club Med, because y'all do such a good job with this, they focus on what somebody's role is and what somebody in that role does. And they spend no time talking about what that role means, not just what it means to the people that they work with, but to themselves. And if we can focus more on the meaning, right, it brings that emotion back into their work. And the second you add emotion into it, it's just so much more enjoyable. And I love that you brought that up, because it really is, that's a phenomenal thing. Learn to fail. And you're using it as a priority for these roles, because Bill Gates said that success is a terrible teacher, because you're not learning then, right? You don't know what's wrong. And I love that. Okay. So I got another question for you. So that was for somebody coming into the world, coming into business. What advice would you give another executive at any random organization? What piece of advice would you give them to help them build a phenomenal culture within their organization, like Club Med has done? What would be your advice to them?
That's a good one. First is what we try to do. That's why I'm a group of other CEOs as a network. We try to have a group where you feel comfortable sharing stuff together. When you're CEOs, you're a bit alone, because you can share a lot with your teams, because vulnerability brings trust. So you do it in coaching sessions. But when things are difficult, your teams need to feel that you're strong, you know where you're going, there's direction. Because the moment they feel that you're weak, then the whole organization stumbles. So having a group of peers that you feel comfortable sharing a lot of stuff together, I think for me was remarkable to challenge myself and find new ideas. But you need to find the right groups, because if it's, it took me time to find the right group to really have these transparent exchanges with them. Otherwise, I was in a group where, I took my job in the middle of the crisis, actually at the beginning of the crisis. And I was in this network, so, okay, I'm going to hear what everybody's doing. And in the rooms, everybody say, oh, I'm genius, everything's go well, zero impact, zero impact, zero impact. I say, oh God, I've got a lot of impact. And I didn't go for that group for a while. Then I came back like 2 years later, and then I realized everybody has changed. So it must not have been that well for them, because I have the new head of these companies, and they were telling me that the last 2 years were terrible. So finding a group of people you can share your ideas is very important. And it's not only business, it's also about your personal thinking and your family thinking. I think for me it was very powerful with the YPO organization. And then is being open eyes. Try to learn every day. The book about mindset that really help us to think about growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. So starting to learn by yourself every day, open my eyes. So it's an attitude. I love going to other companies. I love to visit other offices. I love to get them there. And at the same time, I can tell you that when I brought in my retreat, these 7 CEOs from completely different business, and we went to Club Med. And it's just, I don't know how much time you have, but
no, come on, bring it.
Longest story short, they were looking at me all the time, because I was talking to other employees and saying, hey, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do? And let's say we have a good night, we have a good parties, and we finish at 4 a.m. And with this group of CEOs. And in Club Med, there is a tradition. When you close the club, even in a family resort, the last guest, the chef, a resort manager, take them to his house, which is on site, and he does pasta. That's what we do. So if you finish very late, you're the last 5, clients, you go to the general manager and he do pasta for you. And it's kind of a super amazing moment, and there are a few of us staff. But at that day, we went outside and came back. And I said, come on, it's 4. What are you going to do? So one of our guys was the restaurant manager. So we went in the kitchen and we started with the CEOs doing pasta all together. And one of the staff members she was an intern. And she said, yeah, Xavier, I see the new uniform. I said, yeah, what do you think about it? Is it good or bad? She said, yeah, but this is not right, because, it's not nice. And we used to have that. It's not good. So I said, yeah, so what would you do? And all these CEOs were watching me and said, but Xavier, what's happening here? They were not drunk, but they said, what's happening here? You have an intern here. We are 4 a.m. We're doing pasta with other CEOs, and she's challenging her CEOs about the uniform. And you know what? You're really listening to her. And that's what I thought was interesting, is that when you go in other companies, you're going to learn a lot of stuff. And from exchanging with these guys, we have this similar experience for me in their companies that give me a lot of cool ideas to test on my employees. And it helps to bring that very positive attitude we have in Club Med.
Well, I love that. And I mean, that's phenomenal. And I think a big thing I found with a lot of my clients, especially once you get towards the executive level, is that they do feel lonely right at the top. And if you don't have a group to where you can share ideas and trials and tribulations, because people are constantly looking to you for answers, and not that you have to have all the answers, but if you have some new idea or some kind of challenge that you're facing, it's always nice to have people that are in the same boat, right? Not in your boat, right? But in the same similar situation that you can get, hey, have you ever had this situation? What would you do in that? Those kind of ideas where you can just kind of mastermind, right? And have that kind of a network is just phenomenal. I love that. That's a great piece of advice. Well, I'm just honored that you came on. I really am. And this has
thank you.
It's been just it's a learning experience for me too, right? And now I get to kind of see behind the scenes, right, of that polished experience that I had at Club Med. And it was phenomenal. I want to go back to Turks and Caicos. And I can't wait for y'all to open y'all's ski resorts. Do you know where y'all are going to open those?
North America, the first one is going to be December 2020. It's going to be in Quebec, very close to the city of Quebec City.
Okay.
And you'll be facing the Saint Laurent.
All right.
And there's 2 days, there's the domain there's no hotel.
Okay.
So you can imagine pretty remarkable location.
That's going to be neat. Oh man, very exciting.
You finish skiing and the next day you can do whale watching.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's going to be a very more than ski is going to be really a Quebec completely experience. We want it to be a Quebec experience. So everything we're going to do, from the food, the drinks, the atmosphere, excursion, the visit, the people is going to be here. We want to show a genuine Quebec experience for our guests from around the planet.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I just, I hope all my guests, everybody that's listening in, got to hear all this phenomenal knowledge that you just dropped on them, and sharing with us the culture that Club Med has not only cultivated over the past, 60 years, but what y'all continue to cultivate today. So just thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I just want to thank everybody else that was listening. Thank you so much for coming to my show. I really appreciate it. If you ever have any questions, you want to send stuff in, feel free to email me, info@joshuamevans.com. Look us up on any of the social media platforms @EnthusiasticU. And I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Have a great day.